What's going on, everyone? Justin Smith here with tracksandsign.com, and I'm joined by my business partner, Brandon Mulson.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Brandon. This is our very first podcast that we are doing together for Tracks and Signs. So before we get into our topic and discussion for this week, I briefly want to introduce myself. Brandon will introduce himself, and then we'll get rolling on today's topic. Again, my name is Justin Smith, and I am born and raised in the Metro Detroit area. My father and I own quite a bit of property up in northern Michigan, and I've been an outdoorsman, a hunter, a conservationist, just a person of nature pretty much my entire life. I've been getting really serious into it over the last 7 years, and I love it. It's my passion. It's something that I love to do every weekend as often as I possibly can. And it's really cool that Brandon and I are doing this together because we're both passionate about it. So Brandon, go ahead and briefly introduce yourself and we'll get rolling.
All right. Thanks, Justin. Similar to Justin, I was born in called Southeast Michigan as well. I'm Brandon Mulson, and I have not been a avid outdoorsman similar to how Justin was for my entire life, but let's call it the last couple of years. Decided to go all in. So now I'm part of a couple different deer leases, one major one down in eastern Ohio, and love trekking around public land here in Michigan and then up at Justin's property. A lot of fishing all over the place. Real passionate about what we're doing here. Very excited to be on this podcast.
Yeah, and Brandon, I think it's awesome that obviously we've had a relationship, a business relationship in the past, but forward a couple more years, and now we're doing a bunch of really fun, new, exciting outdoors related activity, and I've loved it. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because when we first met, I don't know, a handful of years ago through business. You were talking about getting out of work early to go sit in a tree in the woods. And I couldn't wrap my head around that. I was shooting guns and fishing, but I wasn't hanging out in trees yet. And now fast forward a couple of years, and that's all we're doing more days than not during the week.
Yes. Whether it's in a tree or a swamp or a marsh or yes.
Or thinking about it.
Yeah, or thinking about it for sure. Yeah, and that actually kind of, Tracks and Sign, you one day, I don't know, we were talking, it was your fire, it was your drive that got it going, but, we were talking one day and we both wear all this gear, all this apparel from other companies, right? And I believe you're the one that came up with the idea of Tracks and Sign, and it kind of evolved from there. So, part of the reason why we wanted to start doing this podcast is we're more than just trying to be in the apparel game. Like, we're doing all this really cool stuff, this fishing, duck hunting, goose hunting, deer hunting, etc. And turkey. It's like, turkey. Yeah, turkey. Yeah, Brandon, you could probably list more than I can right now.
Oh my gosh.
So we were like, why not share these experiences, these failures, successes, and share and as we're learning, because Brandon, we're both like novice.
Sure.
Yeah. So I figured, the podcast is a great way for us to share experience and just hopefully people will put input in and comment and share and just, help us learn better.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the fun part. We see there's tons of footage out there that you can watch. Every morning, I'm in a pretty good position. So my wife and I had a baby 5 months ago. And so that crazy sleep schedule I've had, and mix that in with a global pandemic, I've had quite a bit of time to watch some YouTube videos and about every hunting or fishing show, anything related to, on Amazon Prime, Netflix, and YouTube. So it's I've spent a fair amount of time looking into as much as I can in terms of hunting, fishing, foraging, land conservation, and it's always hosted or spoken to from somebody that's been doing it literally their whole lives and on a professional level. So to see our journey, you're steps ahead of me on this, but there's some other things that we're doing that it's a lot of it is either our first time or, just a couple years in. And that's a pretty cool journey to see that evolve. I'm real excited to be doing this.
Yeah, likewise. And I love that we have our own little, entities, as in, you have your lease down in Ohio. I got my thing up in Michigan, but we always find a way to do a lot of things together, which has been really exciting. I've learned a lot from you already, especially waterfowl, man. I've really been enjoying that.
Well, and one thing is a common theme across a lot of the associations that go into making all this outdoor activity happen. Ducks Unlimited, a huge component of why we can be out in the marsh and hunting over flooded corn zones and timber and all these different public land DNR managed areas. But that's another reason why Tracks and Sign was created. A portion of everything that we bring in will go towards, and we're starting off here. So we're not cutting big 3x6 checks, taking pictures, shaking hands. But in my opinion, I feel like you completely agree, anything that we can scrum up and send over to these associations, it matters. And it will be a difference chain, and hopefully it continues to grow. But that's really the main reason why we started, quote unquote, the apparel entity of this whole thing. Yes, we love wearing our own stuff because it's fun and it does represent a lifestyle, but knowing that a portion of it's going to better just the land and the wild game, the management, and the education, everything that goes into it for our time now and generations to come, beautiful.
I could not have said that better myself. You nailed it. 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
So with that being said, how about we rock this and this conversation and we start talking about the topic for the week?
Yeah, let's get going.
All right. So Brandon, you wanna kick the topic off and then we'll go from there?
So we got pretty excited. And we've been at this for a handful of months now. I say a handful because I really do think maybe it's a little more than 5 months, but we've been talking about this time of year pretty regularly, almost about every single day. And all of a sudden, October 1 rolls around, which happens to be bow season opener in Michigan. And we're both out there, that day, that weekend. And neither of us take anything, have opportunities to take doe, but we were hoping for something different. And passing on game is fun. You see, there's a lot that goes into it, and you just get to see and get more educated on their movement and just keeping your own self grounded and patient. But now, fast forward, we're really excited for a cold front to come through, both Michigan and Ohio at the same time. I haven't been down to my the deer property lease. It's 430 acres in Noble County. It's just big buck country down there. And I saw a degree change from 81 going down to low 50s, and the following day it would hit 30s for the first time. So here I am just fired up. And in a similar situation, climate, like weather change up in where you're at, Justin. So we're gearing up, just so excited about going down there, make a bunch of predictions. And we did that, was that Thursday?
Yep.
We did those Thursday, got our predictions in, go down and to our respected areas. And it wasn't, there was some things that I think were spot on and other things that our predictions, at least my predictions, were just not there at all.
I mean, I think this goes along the line of like having expectations lead to suffering.
Well, and optimism.
Yeah.
Just runs through our blood. Pours out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So you definitely had warmer temperatures in Ohio. So we didn't get, we were about 70 degrees Friday And then we dropped down. The low was around 31, 32 degrees, like actually walking out to the blinds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so walking out to the blind on Saturday morning, there actually was some ice along the trails.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it definitely yeah. So we both experienced a 20 plus degree change, which, like you were saying, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you were online looking at the forums and stuff. People were fired up about this cold front coming in, and with the winds,
absolutely. Yeah. The oh my gosh, it seemed like a perfect storm given the time of year, and as we approach this the full moon that's happening on the 31st. Some people argue that doesn't have anything to do with deer movement. A lot of other people say that it absolutely does. But nobody can argue that at the end of October and the beginning of November, typically every single year for as long as people can think, at least up in where our area, Midwest America, that is time of year for rut. And so given the temperature change and the time of year, at least those two factors come into play, thinking that, hey, we might have pre-rut activity on our hands and get real excited about it.
Yeah.
So what happened? Definitely. What happened up in northern Michigan? We're about 8 hours apart. Right now we're both in southeast Michigan, but our deer properties are about 8 hours apart.
Yeah. So we got up there on Thursday night. We hunted Friday morning till about 11:30. We saw very little activity. We saw a couple of does that were just on the border of our property and some state land. I mean, it's always great to see deer, but there wasn't a lot of activity. And then the rain and wind was coming in, so that cold front, it was about 25, 30 mile an hour gust. It was pouring rain in the afternoon. And then I made a decision around 4:00 Friday to go sit out in the rain because based on the radar and what we're saying about times when the rain was going to end, it would give me about an hour's worth of possible activity before dark. So I went out there, and it was cold. It was low 40s, rain, 20, 25 mile an hour winds. It did stop raining just before 6:00 on Friday, and then 6:30 came around. Not much was going on. I decided to pull out a grunt tube and then also a like a beat can. Or a bleak can, I'm sorry. And then I did that a couple times. I ended up getting a pretty nice size 4-point come in. But I mean, it was, probably a 1.5, 2-year-old deer. Nothing like I would have never have drawn back on it.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know too, I'm using a bear charge compound bow. I draw back 70 pounds. Brandon, I'm excited to share another part of the weekend with you because I did make an executive decision on something. But, yeah, so I saw the 4-point come in. It was, I knew I was never going to take a draw on it, and it was just cool to see. It's cool to, when you're using some of the techniques like the grunts and the cans and the rattling and all that, to actually see it work. And this deer, I definitely heard it. It was definitely on state land, and I heard it come into me. So it obviously did, take interest in some of the noise I was making, which is really cool to always, be part of.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about, you did a travel Friday morning, and did you get out in the woods on Friday night?
Yeah. So I went down there Friday, got into the woods. So I get to my stand. And so by the time I left on Friday, I said, you know what, I think I'm going to try to time it where I can get down there mid-afternoon, hopefully not spook or bump anything, at least around the area that I plan to hunt. And because I had last-minute work to do to my stand. And so get down there, and that last-minute work to a stand, it wasn't last minute. There was a couple hours worth of stuff to do. One being lift up one of the edges and secure 4x4s to the to the side of it to level it off. And so thankfully my buddy, very big avid hunter angler, gets down there and I of course forgot drill and sawzall and stuff like that. He whips out some nice DeWalt battery powered, so we whip that whole thing together.
Brandon, we'll just say you forgot everything because you were so fired up to get down there.
I had everything in my truck. You would think that I was packing for a family of 6. I mean, you couldn't fit another thing back in that truck on the tailgate, and oh my gosh, I had everything except my power tool. So thankfully he brought his, and we got that put together, and decided not to sit Friday night. And we finished up about 7:00. So
hey, you got it done though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Got it done. Real excited. And then I did sit Saturday morning. And so, and then also on Friday, it got up to low 80s, which was, it was real hot, and it was supposed to rain, and it kept moving back. It didn't start raining until about, I think, 11 o'clock at night, and then rained all night and even in the morning when I was getting out to my stand. I like to get out there an hour and a half before shoot light. So it was still raining when I got out there. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, maybe, and temperatures were dropping at that point. They were low 50s. And I'm thinking, big temperature change just happened. It's been raining all night. Maybe the bucks weren't out eating, moving, things like that, and they're going to be moving first thing in the morning. Justin, I didn't see a single deer all morning. I didn't see a doe. I didn't see, in my predictions, I said I was going to see a possum. No, the only thing interested in the food plot that I was in front of were blue jays, and a lot of blue jays, and woodpeckers fighting over things. That is it. Not even a lot of squirrels. I didn't see anything on Saturday.
I saw your possum.
Saturday morning. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Usually there's a bunch running around out there. I was surprised I didn't see one. That's why I put that in the prediction for sure, but no.
Yeah, for the Brandon and I, we made a list of things, prediction outline, and Brandon had for his, I think it was a possum, and hang on here, where are we at? Oh yeah, a possum, and then I had a bobcat or a bear. Saw neither. So Brandon, yeah, like I said, I saw your possum, but. So just real quick, and for clarity, Brandon, do you want to touch on the baiting down in Ohio?
Yeah. So Michigan, it was outlawed a couple of years ago. Ohio, you're still allowed to have some bait. So we put there's about a dozen guys in the lease. We're all in separate little areas around the property, but on mine, I'm hunting over. It's a real small food plot that hasn't been really managed in about 5 years, 6 years, and so I cut out a very small piece of that and laid some late season, just like a mixed blend. And what I noticed are there were some clover that was coming up from whoever planted, call it 6 years ago. It was very interesting. Or it just naturally is coming through. That was the only thing that was green that I was looking at. But also I put out 2 piles of corn, one in the plot and then one in this wooded area lane that overlooks a ravine down to a creek bottom. So it's a little more hilly out there. But in Ohio, yeah, you're still allowed to hunt with corn piles. Some people use carrots. Some people use apples. I put a little corn out there.
Hey, it's always a safe choice. I mean, deer
yeah.
love corn.
Hey, the doe love it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen any bucks love it yet.
I was gonna say we need to get those big boys to come love it.
Oh, they're fed well down there.
So yeah, so Brandon, Saturday morning, low mid 30s, like a frost on the ground, some water was frozen. I was fired up, woke up like 45 minutes before my alarm. And also you guys, so this year, my girlfriend, Lauren is been hunting with me. She's been enjoying sitting with me. We have one of those double, 2-man tree, stands. And so I'm fired up. She's like, I don't get it, and that's okay. But she's being a trooper. She's going out there without, she's been going out there with me almost every weekend. God bless her, because sometimes that's all I want to do all day is just sit in my tree. So where I'm at on my property, I'm in the the northwest corner. It's a new area of our property that we just had some excavating done and some clearing. My dad and I did most of it, and then we brought in an excavator and cleared some access to parts of the property we have yet to really explore, even know what's back there. So I pretty much put the double man tree stand up in that corner, not really having any expectations. All I know is there was a lot of deer movement, scrapes, rubs, even in the late summer, a lot of deer activity, and we're butted up against hundreds and hundreds of federal state lands. So I wanted to really understand the deer movement back in that corner because of what I was seeing. So, we have quite a bit of activity on our cameras. There's some nice sized deer during the nighttime, and a ton of does. Usually it's the same group of about 5 or 6 does that come in there. So at any given time during the week, we're seeing, 20, 30 deer. And then there's a couple of bucks mixed in there. But yeah, so Saturday morning, Brandon, we get out there. It's perfect temperature, a little bit of a very light wind, and we don't see a single thing. Like, we didn't spook any deer walking into our spot. Nothing. Like, there was nothing moving. We heard, a couple of like twig snaps and things like that over off into the state land, but we saw nothing at all. Right. So yeah. I'm like, what the heck? So, and Lauren is definitely a nature outdoors woman, but it's very interesting. She has a little bit of a difficult time staying still and quiet in the tree stand. And it's a joke between us. I give her a lot of crap, but I actually made a decision we climbed down from our tree at about 9 a.m. I know, a little early. And we went back to camp, and we were just like, okay, how can we make the best of today? So I actually got on the phone and I called one of the farming feed stores in town, and they told me about this place of about a half hour away that could sight in a compound bow on the spot for a couple bucks. So at about 9:30, we hop in the car with my dad's compound that he just got. Still needed some sighting in, needed some work. He really, not much hunting's been done with it this year, just because it was just purchased in late season. It's not, that's a whole different story. But anyway, so we get in the car, we go get this compound sighted in, and we actually went and sat in what we call the deer hotel, which is on the complete opposite side of the property. It's a really nice deer blind that my dad and I built last year, and we sat there for 8.5 hours all day till dark, and we saw one deer. And it was probably about a 1.5-year-old, maybe even a 1-year-old doe, very tiny. And I was just scratching my head. Like, the temperatures were good, the wind was good, we were downwind. I mean, we have a really nice food plot back there with red radishes and clover and alfalfa, and there's a little bit of Brachus seed on a different spot, and it's just like everything was perfect. And we saw one deer. And there's some big deer back on that camera too that we have back there. We have a couple of cameras back there, and there's a lot of deer. And we saw one.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, but then now I can. So the way our property is set up, it's 430 acres. There's a gas line that goes down almost the middle of it, and we rent it for the past 20 years. It's been leased by a few of the same guys for about 21 years now, 22 years. And I'm set up on the southwest corner of the property, and you get there by going up the gas line and it's, I don't know, a couple hundred yards of elevation change, and you do this little half circle around to get up it, and then you walk the gas line for a bit, and then you drop down to the west side into the woods. And at that point, it's a pine to hardwood transition, and now you're walking through the hardwoods, probably down at, I've been saying 20 feet, but it's more like 50 yards, like down. So I'm still probably about 100 yards above where the creek is below me.
Hey,
so,
Brandon, real quick, can you explain
Yep.
the importance of the transition? Like why is there a transition area?
Well, the way, and so I'm thinking of it in my head right now of where these deer are bedding, and then poking around in the pines, coming through the hardwoods down to water, and there I am set up in the middle of that area. So especially with minimal movement around this time or a little before, these bucks are moving from, and let's say where their bedding area is, going through hardwoods to get down to the water. And my thought and theory here is that I am going to be there intercepting them. A lot of times these doe are popping through the pines and doing the same thing down to the food plot. And so I'm trying to be set up there with wind. Playing the wind is tough. So you think, oh man, you got to come in from the south, and a lot of times it's a south wind. Well, it was a south wind. It was like a southwest wind at camp even. And so on our phone apps it says southwest wind, and it was blowing, and it wasn't a big wind, but it's still a wind, 8 miles an hour or something like that. And so I'm over, and I think it got a little bit up into double digits. But I get to my stand, and I have it was a north wind. So I don't know if it's swirling around up there. There was 2 other hunters on the property that were up there this weekend, and they were saying it was swirling a little bit where they're at. But I just don't know if it's affected by elevation. So I was downwind all day, and I'm like, gosh, I don't know if it can get more perfect than this. Like they're going to come in. I've got lanes coming from the pines into the food plot down, and then for them to get down to the water. And that whole like cliff that drops off 100 yards, there's a solid game path that goes just down there. So I have a little bait pile right on that lane, and then also in my food plot. And I didn't see one thing Saturday morning. I didn't spook anything going in there that I know of, but I'm also not as stealthy as I tend to imagine I am walking into the woods.
Likewise.
So, who knows? I don't know. One thing is I don't drive an ATV, so I walk from the road in, and it's a nice solid hike in, and I'm trying to be as quiet as possible, minimal light, the whole thing. And so I sit there, but I do pull back out because I wanted to help actually the guy that helped me the night before, Jimmy. He has a second blind on the property in a solid position. He wanted to move it. So it's on the opposite end of the property. So I hop back, go back to camp. We drive over there, take care of that for maybe a couple hours, and I get right back in the stand. And I don't see another single thing for the rest of the afternoon until 1 hour, about an hour and a half to end of shoot light. 3 doe come in. They come in pretty skeptical, and they sat there the whole time.
Wow.
I couldn't. So I watched the 3 of them for the whole time. At one point, I can't. It's not confirmed. Oh, one thing is, when I was walking out to go help Jimmy, I did bump something at the end of my trail, right on the transition line. So was it a buck? Was it a doe? It was a solo deer. I couldn't tell what it was, but and it ran into my food plot.
Hey, Brandon, it was probably a 16-point monster.
Yeah, it was probably just a gigantic tank sitting there that had walked back to bed after I had gone down there. Who knows, but it wasn't coming into me. So bump that thing right into my food plot. take care of Jimmy stuff, come back, see these doe. One thing, so it's not acres of a food plot, but it's a small area inside some very, very thick timber on top of the ridge. And it's a solid opening that was an old food plot. And so me not having a till or, all sorts of stuff and just getting into this property for the first time this year, I went down there and hand turned it over with a shovel and then hand spread that late season mix. And so that was just a month ago. And it's all brown. You can see clover coming through the brown, which was already there prior to me. But the area that I hand turned over is just bright green. It's like, it looks neon green. And it's like a bullseye, like huge timber around, old brown food plot, and then this bright green circle in the middle of it. And I'm telling you, Justin, these 3 deer literally stood in the middle of this little green patch and ate for an hour. Couldn't believe it.
So moral of that story is you don't need massive, pieces of farm equipment to get the right growth going.
It might be a little easier to turn over the dirt, but man, I couldn't believe it. They sat right in the middle of that thing. They ran around a little bit, but for the most part, they were sitting there just mowing away on that. And they did look my way. So here's the thing. I was all excited about being downwind. However, I'm pretty sure there was something very massive walking up behind me, not a squirrel. And it probably saw me through the deer blind or got my wind, whatever it was, but ran away. And it was walking up. And I thought, I don't know if we should start getting into this now, but I was trying to think, I can't think of one other situation that will cause somebody, and I was still as a board. I mean, I'm not even, I was trying not even to breathe type deal, or breathe very slowly so I wasn't going to be all worked up. My heart, I was actually worried about it for a second. It was pounding so hard through my chest. I was in awe about hearing this huge deer walking up behind me and having these 3 doe looking at it. I can't think of any other thing that will make me do that. It was, I mean, that experience alone made the whole day of not seeing anything worth it. That was just unbelievable.
That feeling, that emotion is one of the things that gets you back into the tree when it's, in the teens, snowing, heavy winds. And I mean, that right there is part of like the why you go back.
Oh, absolutely. Because there's a chance, right? Optimism here. There's a chance that it's going to turn down the trail and go and come in where I think they're going to come in at. And of course, it didn't do that. But what I was hearing, I mean, twigs breaking, and I mean, it was something pretty heavy that was just coming in. And oh my gosh, I thought my heart was going to come out of my skin. It was unbelievable.
I'm glad you survived.
I did. Yeah.
I mean, I hope that feeling, that rush, that adrenaline, that we're talking about right now never goes away. And we've talked about this, in car rides, on the way to go, duck hunt stuff. And I just hope that rush never leaves, because it really is something where you cannot, it's almost indescribable in a way. And you're right about like thinking about other situations that make you feel that way. And I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah. There's one thing, and it was when my son Henry was being born. The anticipation of knowing that he's about to come out, and here I am, in the operating, like in the delivery room. That was more of a crazy feeling. But knowing a buck is about to come up behind you is, you're trying to be as still as possible. In the operator, like in the delivery room, I'm not trying to be as still as possible. I'm just like in shock that it's actually going down. But there, it's like you're trying to be so still, and your heart is just boom, 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 boom. Maybe the deer heard that. I don't know.
Your body was pulsating with your heart, so even though you were
Oh,
trying not to move, you were moving.
yeah, the whole like, and then it's a 4x8, just a massive deer blind that I built there. That probably was shaking from my heart beating so hard.
That is funny.
Yeah,
So
then those three left probably 20 minutes after that. So they didn't get spooked by me. They didn't get spooked by the deer running away, and it wasn't even really like a run. It was like a kind of like a gallop away, and it didn't. I don't know. It wasn't. I don't think it was spooked per se. That we're never coming back because Sunday, and we'll get in. Well, I'll let you go Sunday first. So that was my Saturday. I went back to camp, met up with the other guys. One guy was down there with his dad, and so there was four of us kicking it for the night, and it was just a good time. Made some burgers on the grill, and that was good.
That's awesome, Brandon. Yeah, so a really disappointing Sunday. So we actually we looked up on like 4 different apps, and they were calling for 90% to 100% for about the first 6 hours of the day, with winds with gusts somewhere between 35 to 40 miles an hour. So we actually decided to leave late Saturday night after a very tough call. Yeah, so we did not hunt Sunday, which I was super upset about, but we made the right call because I texted our neighbor up there, and she said it rained literally all day, high winds. Yeah, so as much as I wanted to stay hunting and downpour with 35 40 mile per hour winds, is just I felt like my time could be better spent doing other things on Sunday, as much as I would just rather be in the woods. But yeah, so we made the call.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, nothing exciting to report there, except for I just can't wait to get back up later in the week. And the weather is still looking pretty consistent with, in the mid 30s, 40s over the next about week and a half. So, I mean, we're coming up to obviously Halloween, beginning of November, which is, in my opinion, is arguably some of the best time to be in the woods. I love rut time, but tell me about Sunday.
So Sunday I was Saturday was a bust, but at the evening part of it was exciting. Just seeing deer in front of you for a long period of time and potentially hoping something comes running in there chasing them or something like that. That was exciting. So the temperature went down and touched the 30s for the first time down there. Nice. And there was no rain on the forecast. Real exciting. Woke up at 4 a.m. and it was raining. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where'd this come from? However, it was also 39, 41, right around that. And it was like 42 when I went out to the stand, but it was raining. So it rained up until shoot light. And it just started raining, and then it rained up until shoot light. And so my optimism was concerned, and I would love to hear some feedback on other people's experiences with this. But raining that hour, 2 hours before shoot light, does that put bucks to bed early? And so here in my head, that's the story I'm putting together. Oh, I'm not going to see anything because they've already gone to bed. And, whether it's true or not, that's what was in my head. I still sit no matter what. And I go out there and quiet. I think I'm getting better and better at being stealthy. Again, in my head, I'm getting better and better. And so I sit down and I hear nature wake up, which is arguably the best, I think, the best experience I have when I'm hunting is hearing that the whole forest just wake up. And I don't see anything. There's nothing walking around. And I'm on my binoculars probably the first hour prior to shoot light, during shoot light, just that. It's just tough to see. So I'm through there, don't see anything. And 7:40, I think my camera grabbed it at 7:46. I hear crashing coming through the woods. And I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to see the first rut activity? Here we go. And just crashing through the woods. It sounded like it passed me to my right. And then all of a sudden, boom, here comes a doe just hauling ass through the food plot. And I'm pretty sure it's the same one of the 3 does from yesterday. There was like a baby, or I'm sorry, not yesterday, but Saturday. There was like a yearling, and then maybe like a 2-year-old and like a very mature doe. Those were the 3 that were sitting in there. This was what I think to be the yearling. I couldn't really tell though, because it was the deer was running. I mean, hauling ass. Didn't stop to eat. Didn't do anything. Just ran directly in front of me. And so again, heart starts pumping. Oh man, here comes a buck's going to be chasing that thing right on its coat. Nothing came in. I did bring a grunt call down there. I think it may have made a difference on Saturday. And then right after that happened, did a couple call patterns spread out, but trying to sound like a buck. And I did have another thing come in on me behind, and I thought it was a squirrel. So here I am not taking it very serious. And I'm like, these stupid squirrels are just messing around the trees. And so I turn around and look through. I have like a burlap covering the window. And so I look through that, and then all of a sudden I hear a deer take off. So I don't know if it saw me or what. I, again, can't confirm if it was a buck or a doe. But
now, is there, real quick, is there a nice game trail back behind you or anything, or is there anything noticeable?
Exactly where my head goes. I need to investigate this, because if I'm getting doe coming at me, but potential bucks are coming from behind me, I got to figure this whole thing out. So I give it another hour, and just to see what's going on. Actually, I think I gave it a couple hours, and then at 11 o'clock, I go, okay, well, I need to start heading home around noon. So let me investigate this for about an hour, and get out of my stand, start walking around, and oh yeah, there's all sorts of stuff back there. But the whole property has all sorts of stuff. So, and a lot of it's leading to that main trail overlooking the ridge down to the creek. So I think I'm still good with that being the main highway, we'll call it. But there's certainly some betting and things going on about 50 yards from where my stand is. So there's some things that I need to look into and potentially make a move or do something different if that's going to continue to happen. We'll see.
So you posted a picture on our Instagram of some rubs.
Yeah.
Were those behind you, or was
no? Oh, if those were behind me, I would be in a tree stand overlooking something like that, or I'd have a camera. There were some rubs behind me. Actually, not behind me. Down the trail from the gas line down to my stand, there are a number of rubs. I'll be posting those too. But that one, so here I am coming back in the afternoon on Saturday, driving from stand back to camp, and it's I don't even know how far away it is. It's maybe a half mile. It's nothing crazy. Oh, maybe half mile, quarter mile, something like that. And so I'm right to make the turn onto camp, and boom! I mean, those 3 rubs caught my eye. I just slam on the brakes. I couldn't even believe that I could see these, and those were probably 50 yards into the woods.
Wow!
And it's pretty open from the road in there. So I saw that one, the shredded one, and then I realized there was 2 right next to it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are those fake? Is that real? Those are fresh, real fresh. And then I also on Sunday I pulled my camera. So when I'm walking around, I pulled my camera. I hook it up. I take a look. Saturday night, solid 10 point
Nice.
came into the plot, and where I saw it go, I looked over there, and it's this trail that I made from that main game run along the ridge. I made a entrance from there into my plot that's far enough away from me where that's where the doe came in, which was kind of cool that they used the little run that I made. And he went back there and made a huge scrape,
Wow.
brand new fresh scrape.
Very
So
cool.
didn't see any rubs from him right around there, but it's a nice fresh scrape, and it's the same 10 point that came up on this other guy's. So his name's Hunter as well, and he's on the other side of the gas line on like a few acre food plot, and he was showing me a picture of this 10 point that came into his, and it looks like a cross. It's a funky looking one. It's like a crossbreed between a mule deer and a whitetail. Like one side is a very typical 5 point basket or half, and then the other side is like a brow tine and then two main beams just kind of going out, and then they split up into two. So like two main beams just kind of poking out, which make 4 with the brow tine, 5, and then on the other side is like a perfect, typical 5.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I've never seen something on that property like that. So, and the difference in sign between Friday and Sunday, a lot of sign was being made in those days. So, to wrap up my weekend, I'm thinking, at least in Southern Ohio, the activity is just starting to happen. So I'm a pretty big believer that the bachelor groups have broken up. They're starting to make their territory known, and maybe they're checking doe beds, but I didn't see any movement during the day. And so I'm going back down there, not this week, but Sunday, November 1st, for a few days, and hoping to see some action. But I do think it's about a week, maybe it's a week behind temperatures and rut activity up where you're at. What do you think?
Yeah, I think for Michigan, there's definitely some movement happening, but I think about another week or so. I think the barometer and all that is starting to really change, putting some pressure. I mean, the deer can sense that. That's part of the reason why I was, and I think we both agree with this. Part of the reason why we are so excited, besides this cold front, is that that's a change in barometer, and that the deer know that. Like, they can sense that. They start moving more. Yeah. And so I think about another week of these 30, low 40 degree temperatures. And then there's even some snow in northern Michigan, so maybe it'll push some of that pressure down into the lower peninsula. And I think in another week and a half, I think it's going to be a lot different than it was this weekend and the last previous few weekends. Naturally. I think there's I think there's activity happening. I just think it's about a week away from a lot more serious movement and some rut. I would even say some pre-ruts starting to happen, but I think rut's probably another week and a half off to begin. Yeah. So, what was one of the bigger takeaways for you this weekend? And it doesn't have to be anything specific, but what was something that really was implanted into your brain in regards to your process, your tactics, etc. What can you share?
Yeah, I think I'm always going to be an optimistic person. So I'm not going to change that, and I'm not going to get down on myself for getting excited about things. That's the whole reason why, one of the main reasons why we're out there doing what we're doing. It's exciting. Something might happen.
Yep.
And you're trying to put yourself in the best position for that to happen. There's certainly luck involved, and there's a lot of skill that goes into harvesting a nice mature buck. But that journey to get there is all part of it. I think my biggest takeaway is I need to start doing things earlier. Like I should have not been out there Friday drilling and cutting 4x4s at at 7 p.m. at night on the plot that I plan to hunt that weekend. So, part of me is down on myself about that. I could have had the plot put together more, but it was kind of cool to see them on this literally it's like a 15 by 15 spot, 10 by 10. I don't know how big it is, but it's real small. So the whole plot should have been done. I should have known about. I should have done more investigating on those runs behind me. There's some other things that I want to do to the blind, but I think the biggest takeaway is just there's never enough preparation that can go into setting yourself up to be in a good position.
Yeah, no, that's great.
How about you?
Yeah, so where I'm hunting in the northwest corner, being that property is newly exposed, I planted our food plots as like literally. They came in, we created, my dad and I created a 2-track trail. They came in with excavator and did, some massive clearing. But that following week is when I planted the food plot. And then that was only not even probably 6 weeks ago. So I believe I took as much advantage of the time that I had, but it's interesting because, the big food plot that we have over by my dad's blind, where we call the Deer Hotel, we also agree, like we need to start planning earlier. We need to do less work in those areas, starting in the spring, early summer, lay down that, the food plot, lay down the seed, let it grow and leave that area alone. Because like you, man, when you're down in Ohio, you're wanting to take as much advantage of the time while you're down there. You want to get as much work done as possible. And you're right there, there's never enough time to set yourself up for as much success as possible, but definitely getting things done earlier, leaving the area alone. For me, probably the biggest takeaway is, Friday night when it was raining like it was and the wind, typically, I would not go sitting there. And from listening to people that are obviously much more knowledgeable about whitetail deer and the weather, and they're always encouraging people, get out there in the rain, take the sit, observe, learn as much as you possibly can. And so I think putting myself in those positions when it is not Sunday, there was no way I think we made the right call with 30, 40 mile per hour gust, and just torrential downpour. I think the neighbor said we probably got about like a half inch of rain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a ton of rain. But Friday, I'm really glad that I kind of pushed myself a little bit to go get, sit out there, get a little uncomfortable because it was raining pretty heavy for a decent amount of time. And I think I'm going to take advantage of those types of days a little bit more. Stepping outside, get outside the comfortable, no rain and low winds, and just, I can deal with the cold temperatures, but that type of element, I need to, put myself in those elements more often, because I know a ton of people, and you probably do as well, that have taken, very mature bucks during those types of weather periods. So, and it is cool to see, it's cool to see their movement during them too. Like, obviously I didn't see that. I only saw the 4-point. But I mean, it was probably 10 minutes after the rain stopped that I saw this thing. So it was just interesting to see their movement and, kind of like you were saying in the morning, the forest coming awake, like after the rain, like things, it's almost like it became alive again. Everything came out for that last, maybe that, the birds, the squirrels, other wildlife came out to maybe do their little last feeding before going to sleep. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think, so the two other guys, so there were 4 people. There were 2 other people that are in the lease with me, and then one of their fathers. All of us were sitting in different areas though. Father wasn't hunting. He just wanted to be there. He just wanted to check it out. So he was actually sitting over the larger food plot, excuse me, that's across the gas line from me. When I was seeing those 3 doe Saturday night, everybody else were seeing doe at the same time.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, um, the but nobody saw a buck except the guy, and we're all in almost four corners of the property, which is also interesting. And the dad that was sitting over the big food plot, he had six doe in there and two bucks. One was a spike and one was a 4-point, and then the rest of them were all just doe. And so he's the only one who saw bucks. Nothing that anybody is gonna take down there, but yeah, those little guys were moving, and I'm with you on getting out there and just seeing movement. It's I didn't get blown by the doe. Jimmy did, and he's up in like and I'm only a couple feet off the ground. He is about 15 feet up in the air, and he's been there for, I don't know, I think he's been in the leash for about 3 or 4 years now. And he was shocked that he got blown. So it's just the experience of getting out there and seeing what is blowing your cover or how they're reacting to you now being on there. Because that property goes unpressured all year. All of us live 5 hours away, 4 or 5 hours away. So when we're not down there constantly checking cams and working on the property and pushing things. So it's now that here we are entering, it's cool to see how they react to it.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. And it is pretty crazy that, Friday night you were doing all that work and then Saturday deer still came out and fed.
Oh yeah.
So it makes you think, like, are they as disrupted, by us being there as we think they are, and vice versa? I mean, it's like one of the questions that just sometimes goes unanswered, because I can't tell you how many times my dad and I'd be working in the woods and then a couple hours later they're on the food plot or something. Like, it's wild.
Oh, and my ground scent is just all over.
Yeah,
the place.
right.
So, I'm reckless as ever, just walking around, pouring stuff out and cutting this, and I should have done that a lot sooner, but I don't know. I mean, nobody else was doing that at their spot, and they saw just as much or less than I did. So, who's to tell? Yeah, deer are going to do deer things.
Yes, they are, Brandon. Anything else? Did we forget anything, or anything else you want to leave us with?
I saw your snack game was a lot better than mine.
Yeah. We went to the store. We bought lunch meat, made sandwiches. We definitely had some snacks. I mean, we could be a little bit more louder in the deer hotel than we can be in the tree for obvious reasons. Yeah. So yeah, we definitely indulged with some snacks. Definitely had them in their original packaging, which if we were in a tree, they'd be in, Ziploc bags, trying to be as quiet as possible as you're snacking. But yeah, we definitely enjoyed ourselves. And, it was a long afternoon. I mean, 8.5 hours, and just seeing one deer probably about, 20 minutes before dark. It was, like you were saying, it just being out there, watching nature do its thing, doing nature things. And it's just, I love being part of it.
Yeah, I'm real excited. So Thursday were our first predictions for the year. And here's our first outcome talk. I'm excited about predictions come this Thursday, just seeing how the temperature is going to push up there, because it should be, I don't know, it should be another solid weekend. So really looking forward to getting back out in the woods next Sunday.
Yeah. So Brandon, just so you guys know, we put a bunch of, predictions up. Brandon, you mentioned seeing between doe and bucks, you would see a total of 18, 5 occurrences. So you ended up seeing how many deer total?
So I can't say the ones that so the 2 that I heard, can't say that. The one that I pushed when I was walking out Saturday, I was talking about, or unless I was thinking of it wrong, I was thinking of ones that were coming in while I'm sitting.
Yes.
So not including ones that I'm bumping or anything. So I only saw 2 occurrences, total of 4 deer.
Nice. And mine was four occurrences, a total of 4 deer. So no, 5 deer. I'm sorry. with 3 occurrences. Well, I messed that up. But yeah, so five deer, 3 occurrences. And my prediction was a total of 25 all weekend with a mixture of does and bucks in there. So obviously the optimism definitely was there, which is a good thing. And certainly is not deterring us from getting back out there and doing what we love to do.
Yeah, I've been down there a number of times now. Every single time I drove, so I hunted the property, the area, last year 3 times, and then I've been down there 4 times this year, three or 4 times this year. I think this is my 3rd time down there this year, and every time I've been down there, I've bumped deer just driving. You'll see a massive 8 or a 10, or there's big bucks running around all over. And when I was driving down, and that starts about 30 minutes or 45 minutes away from when you pull off of the main highway road, and you're bumping them the whole way, or you're seeing them in the road, you're doing. And this time I thought that was the strangest thing. Not one. I didn't see them out in the field. I didn't, especially when you get down in the property area. Not one. A doe, nothing was there. And it just, something about this weekend. They didn't like it.
Calm before the storm.
I hope so.
Yeah, me too. Well, Brandon, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's always good hearing what you're experiencing, what you're seeing out there, and I appreciate you letting me share my experience as well. And you guys, this is our first podcast, and we really, really would appreciate if you guys, when you're listening, if you have any thoughts, experiences that you would love to share, please feel free to comment and shoot us an email. I'll make sure all of our contact information is in the bio, and it will also include our social media. And while you guys are listening to this and you guys are kind of exploring our website, and you do come across any of the apparel or merchandise that we do have on our site, feel free to use this code in checkout to save 15%. The code's going to be TSPOD15, TSPOD15. I'll make sure I include that as well in the bio. But until next time, I'm Justin Smith, and I'm with Brandon Molson. And we hope you have a great week, and be sure to get out in those woods and enjoy nature. Until next time. Brandon, thank you.
Thank you, Justin.